Good morning, students. Today, I, Anjali Gupta, I'm going to tell you about some chapter. How are you all in the current scenario? Hope all of you are keeping well. Good. You remember when you were very small, you like to listen stories, various type of stories from your parents, grandparents, natives, even teachers or your friends. Sometimes you like to narrate stories also. Same way, I also like to tell stories, to listen stories from my grandparents. Sometimes guests came to visit us, then I ask them also to tell me bedtime stories, some Panchtantra stories or different type of kings stories. And many of the great fictionists are there in this world who tell us stories that are full of morals. And from every story, we come to learn something this or that. About n number of fictionists or authors are there who have told us too, too many stories that are full of morals, that are full of good attitude attributes. And these fictionists can be from India or from outside of India. Like this world is globalization era, so we can learn about other countries' authors also. In our India, we can say our writer Premchand, Rabindranath Tagore, Chetan Bhagat. If we say in current authors, Sarojini Naidu, and many more are there. And we can learn about Shakespeare, William Wordsworth, or other authors from Europe also. Today I am going to tell you about a story of Leo Tolstoy, who has told us about king. So you can see many of the kings are from various countries of India. This is picture of Maharaja Chhatrapati Shivaji, who is our favorite. All of us like him because he was so brave and full of good attributes. He loved his mother and he was very courageous as well as intelligent. Next, this is Alexander the Great, who ruled over all over the world. Why? Because he was very courageous and he had a desire to conquer the world. Now, this is, can you tell me? Yes, this is Akbar and Birbal. All of you must have heard many stories from the books or from your parents or teachers who have told you about Akbar and Birbal. Akbar was the emperor who had a very witty courtier, we must say, minister whose name was Birbal. Yes, he was full of wisdom. He was very wise. He had every problem solution that Emperor Akbar asked him to solve. Many stories you must have heard. This is Krishnadev Rai, King Krishnadev Rai and Tenali Rama. Krishnadev Rai was king and Tenali Rama was his courtier or minister like Birbal was of Akbar. Today, first of all, I will tell you about Leo Tolstoy. He was a Russian writer. He is considered to be the greatest authors of all time. Means every time his stories are learned or appreciated by all others. He first achieved literary acclaim in his 20s with his semi autobiographical trilogy childhood, boyhood, and youth. Means in his autobiography, he has told about his childhood, boyhood, and youth. Everything you can know about him. Now the question arises as he has written about parables. What is parable? Parable is a short story with a moral lesson, means a story in which we come to know about something that teaches us some good lessons. A parable usually has human characters. Yes, it is described that human characters because many of the stories like Panchtantra stories or we can say demons or fairies. No, in this parable we come to know about the stories that is related to human characters, in which usually a king is described and the story is related to the king and his courtiers. Such a story I am going to tell you today. This is the three questions that is described by Leo Tolstoy very nicely. Okay, student, all of you are ready to listen the story? Okay. Once a certain king had an idea. If he always knew the right time to begin everything, if he knew who were the right people to listen and who to avoid, the most important thing to do. Means he wanted to know what is the right time if I am going to start something and what the type of people and who the people should be there to start the important thing that I am going to start, because he wanted to get the best output of that work so that nobody can question to that nobody should question to that work that he has done, the most important thing that he is telling, so that he should never fail in anything that he would undertake. Means he wants to be successful every time. Since he was convinced that he was right in thinking this way, so he wanted himself if he was right or not about this. He had a proclamation, proclamation. Yes, this is an official announcement in public made in his kingdom. So he told every people so that the best output of the proclamation should be like every people should come to know about this and should guide him the best. He would give a great reward to anyone who would teach him what the right time was for every action. Means sometimes it happens like king is not knowing everything, so he considers or he counsels with his courtiers, ministers, soldiers, and every people that are present in the court so that the output is the best one. And as well as the time, he wanted to know about the people who are necessary for that. So he asked the people who will be the best person and what will be the best time to start that, and how the might he might know the most important thing to do. So he wants to know about the people who could guide him in the best way so that the output is the best one. So from the paragraph we can come to know about the objective type questions. Let's start. What was the idea of the king? Next, what proclamation did he made? Next, what was the aim of the proclamation? Okay, now I tell you the answers for that. Answer 1. The idea of the king was that he wanted to know the right time to begin everything. As you have come to know what is proclamation, he made a proclamation to know the right persons in his kingdom. The aim of his proclamation was that he wanted to be successful every time. So we can say that the king wanted to know the right time, right persons, and wanted to have the best outcome of his doings. Now let's start further. Many learned people came to the court, but they all gave different answers. Obviously, we all know that if we are going to do something, everybody doesn't have the same concern or same thought about one thing. In the same way, in the kingdom also, every learned people, every intelligent people, every intellectual people came with different ideas. In reply to the first question, what was the first question? Yes, it was like, what is the best time to start something? Some said that to know the right time for every action must draw up in advance a table of days, months, and years, and must live strictly according to it. Means calendar. You know the calendar. It has date, month, time. Means he wanted to tell us that we should have proper timing. Hmm. So he wanted to tell us if we are going to start something, everything should be planned properly. Others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for action, but that not letting oneself be absorbed in idle pastimes, one should always attend to all that was going on and then do that which was most essential. It means we should not sit idly. Yes, this is the moral in the lesson also, that we should never sit idly. We should keep ourselves busy in something good so that we can know about something good or our actions or what should we do and what should we not to do. Because if we are sitting idly, we can't know about good or bad about ourselves. Yet others said that it was impossible for one man to decide correctly the right time for every action, that the king should instead have a council of wise people. And about that, king should hire some council that will include wise people, that you must have heard about uh, King Akbar, who had n number of people, n number of courtiers who were called like nine gems of Akbar. Among them, Tansen was there, who was the best musician. Where the most wise person was Birbal, who could solve each and every difficult situation for the king, and many others were there. Like Mansingh was the bravest person among the courtiers of Akbar. In the same way, you must have heard about Tenali Rama, who was the wisest person in the court of Tenali Rama. And today also we see in our administration that Modi ji always cope up with Yogi ji. Then we can say Amit Shah. According to them, all the problems that we face, if we if we execute accumulatively, we can solve all of the problems of our nation. Isn't it? Yes, it is strictly like that. So the people thought, if we have we have to face something best, we should have a council of wise people so that they can guide us for the proper time for everything. Equally varied were the answers to the second question. Some said the people the king most needed were the counselors. It means everybody had different opinions. According to some of the people, the counselor were the most important person in a court, in a kingdom. So the king should have counselors in his court at his best. Now next, others the priest. Now some of them were taking the side of the priest, that priest only can suggest the best time and the best people about, so that the king should have best outcome. If priests are there, they can pray God, they can guide us, and like that. Means everybody had different opinion. No doubt we also say like counselors are important, but where, if we have some uh, jurisprudential, if we have some something for judgment, then counselors are most important people in the kingdom. And if there is some religious occasion, religious festival, then who is the most important person? Priest, because they can pray and they can complete our rituals that are related to reasons, whether this is a church, a mosque, a temple, or we can say gurudwaraj. Means every religion has some priest people where they are we can say different. If they are hajis, they are pujaris, there are priest, or we can say uh, guru sahib. But every step we need different type of people. Others the doctors, some of them were convincing that the best people are doctors. But do you imagine doctors can um, guide a king or a ruler person who is the what is the best? But and some of them were telling us that the warriors were most important for us. Yes, but if we see every person has different scope. If we are sick, then we need doctors. If we need the protection of our country, then warriors are required. If if something is to be judged, then counselors are required. If the festivals are to be celebrated, then priests are required. So we must say no one can lag behind. Every professional is required to execute a king properly. All have their own importance. So now let's see a video. You can understand through this better. See, this is the king. hope students you have understood through this video and all this explanation. So now this is the time for recapitulation, application and homework. For this, you can visit my Google form and you can ask me anytime. Thank you.